Hi, I'm Celeste from DesignsBySIS, and this is our very first vlog. So, welcome to our new venture of trying to connect with our customers as well as using this as a platform to announce our upcoming sales, coupon codes, and new products that we'll be adding to the store. Crafting has really been something that's been a part of my life, really all of my life. I have always seen my mother sew. Out of necessity, she sewed all of my garments growing up because of our family's financial position that we were currently in. And I really enjoyed going to the fabric store with her to look at all the beautiful fabric, touch them, feel the textures, look at a bolt of fabric and think this could be a dress or, a pair of pants. And I just really enjoyed watching her create these wonderful and beautiful garments that I wore throughout my life from just this one piece of fabric. She was an excellent seamstress. And so as I began watching her, I began having an interest in sewing. And so I saved up my money from my birthdays and from Christmases and from odd jobs that I would do for my family as well as for neighbors. And I helped buy my very first sewing machine at the age of 8. So my mother knew that I was pretty serious about trying my hand at sewing. So she began teaching me a little bit about sewing, but we're so much alike that that didn't last for very long. So to keep our sanity, she would enroll me in a few sewing classes. And so I began learning how to make pillowcases and book bags that I would put my piano books in and use as I was riding my bicycle to and from piano lessons every week. And many of my friends, even in elementary school, would say, "Hey, where did you get that bag? I would love to have one of those." And I would say, "Oh, I made it. You can't buy it anywhere. It's one of a kind." And so that, as an elementary child, brought a lot of satisfaction that I had one of a kind items. And so I just began doing various crafting projects. Even some of our Christmas ornaments were made by me. And I unpacked a box recently from my mother's house and found some of those still thankfully intact. Not something that you would definitely want to put on your Christmas tree right now, but it was kind of fun to reminisce about some of those early projects that I did as an elementary child. When I graduated from college, I was a classroom teacher in Texas, and as we know, not all of those teachers, we don't make very much money. And so I had to actually sew the garments that I wore each day as a classroom teacher because I could not afford on my salary to go out and purchase items that my district expected us to wear inside the classroom. And so I'm thankful that those skills that I learned as a child helped me as I began my first real job that actually took out taxes and, and provided benefits. Um, and so I began continuing to sew and, in fact, traded my very first sewing machine in for a more upgraded, sophisticated sewing machine that had more stitches and capabilities than what I had as an 8-year-old child. About 3 years ago, when we started our Etsy store, it really became just out of friends nudging me to do that. They had seen the things that I made for myself, as well as for my family, and for gifts for friends. And they said, "You really should be making these and selling them on Etsy. I think a lot of people would really enjoy them." And so I began exploring what Etsy was and decided just to kind of piddle in my craft room because at that point I was working 70 plus hours in my brick and mortar job as an administrator. And so I just began piddling and putting those things on Etsy to see if anybody was interested. And we did get some hits. So we're very thankful for that. But it also provided me an opportunity just to have a couple hours to myself. At that time, my mother had just received the news that she had 2 forms of cancer. And if you've ever experienced that personally or as a family member, you know how devastating and shocking that news is when you first hear it. This also came after a year and 10 months after my father had passed away with this very same 2 cancers. And so our emotions level were very, very high at that point. And so my role as a daughter transitioned to being her caretaker, transporting her to doctor's visits, making sure that I was keeping track of what the doctor said, her appointments, her chemo treatments, even when she had an adverse reaction to her chemo, which nearly took her life, just really was staying on top of all of those things. And so I needed a way just to have an outlet, just to have me time. And so in the middle of the night, usually once a week for a couple hours, I locked myself in the craft room and just began to go through my stash because we all know that crafters are borderline hoarders and using up the fabric that I had to make projects. And some of those were gifts, some of those were personal things that I used, but then many of those items went on Etsy to sell. And that really helped me cope with a very difficult time in our lives. And thankfully, 3 years later, she is currently in remission, for which we are very grateful for that. I've continued my Etsy business now as I've transitioned into a new stage in my life and just exploring um, different ways that I could add additional income to our family. So we're really beginning to ramp up our store. You will see more and more products being rolled out. And I hope that you'll subscribe to this channel and you'll keep up to date with those new products, but also that you'll come back for May 1st because we'll be announcing a clearance sale on some of our very first products that we offered. And so we are really going to be announcing some big sales for you to take advantage of, and hopefully they will be helpful as you are maybe looking for things for your home or maybe for gifts that you'll be using throughout the year. So thank you for joining us for our very first vlog. And I hope that you will subscribe to this channel, and we look forward to sharing more about our upcoming events very soon.